Welcome back to Don't Open That Door. Come along with our triumvirate of terror as we descend into darkness, hurtle into horror, and plunge into peril. If you've ever watched an alien give birth, you're in the right place. I'm Justin, and I'm here on LV 426 for spring break. Let's see some alien titties.
I'm Nico, and AT Aliens is my favorite Outkast record.
Oh, really? Aqueminized mine, and it was just the 25th anniversary.
True.
Well, I'm Synthetic Dan.
Oh.
Oh, no.
And we're here today to review Aliens, 1986, in case there's any questions. This was directed by a little-known director, James Cameron, starring Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, Carrie Hearn as Newt, Paul Reiser as Burke, Lance Henriksen as Bishop, and Michael Biehne as Hicks. Okay, I gotta get this off my chest first and foremost. This is a direct sequel to Alien. So if you're not up on that movie, do that and get back with us. So we open with Ripley being rescued from her stasis pod, because that's where she was the end of the last movie, and being taken back to a space colony, and all is well. Except it's not.
Aww.
You see, Ripley's actually been asleep for 57 years, and it turns out her daughter is dead.
You say I take long naps.
Also, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation does not believe her report on what actually happened on the Nostromo or details about the xenomorph that she fought. Also, Ripley is now fired, which I guess since she blew up the ship, I can kind of understand. But, you know, to go to a person who I don't understand, Dan, tell me what happened next.
Well, Ripley being fired doesn't actually last very long because she's reinstated and visited by Burke, a member of the corporation, who tells her that the corporation has lost contact with LV-426, the same planet where Riley's old crew ran across the alien
Who
species.
is Riley?
Wow, Ripley.
My man's just watched Inside Out.
Well, Riley being fired doesn't actually last
It's
very long.
not Riley, it's Ripley.
What the fuck? Bruh.
Long day, huh?
Apparently. Well, Ripley's being fired doesn't actually last very long, as she is visited by Burke, a member of the corporation, who tells her that the corporation lost contact with LV-426, the same planet where Ripley's old crew ran across the alien species. Since Ripley's visit to the planet, it's become home to a group of colonists. Also, he promises her that they'll be accompanied by a squad of colonial marines, so, it'll be chill. Ripley replies that she'll go on the condition that they kill any aliens they come across, and Burke, of course, agrees.
Okay. Now, Nico, I know that you don't tolerate no alien shit, do you?
I sure as hell don't.
All right, then tell me what happens next.
So Ripley heads over to LV-426 with the Colonial Marines, including Corporal Hicks and the android Bishop, who Ripley is understandably at first distrustful because of, how the last one betrayed her and her entire crew in the first movie. Which again, if you haven't seen, stop listening to this and watch that. But I'm sure that won't happen again. Anyhow, the crew lands on the colony and make their way into the main complex. And it's fucking big, but no one's home. On top of that, there's signs of battle, including the telltale acid burn of the xenomorphs. Luckily, they do find a girl named Newt that Ripley then cares for. The Marines get a signal that there's a large number of people gathered over by the reactor. So, upon seeing that, they head over there.
That was a good report, Nico. Concise and to the point. Exactly what we need on the field. Unfortunately, these Marines, not so prepared. You see, they head into the reactor when Ripley brings up the point that the soldiers have weaponry that could literally set off this massive planet-sized nuclear reactor, potentially killing them all. Gorman, the Marine in charge, literally sucks and also didn't think about this. So then he tells all the Marines to not fire their rifles, and they have to give up all their ammo. And right when they do that, guess what? There's a whole heaping helping of xenomorphs in that same reactor, and it's a free-for-all buffet because the Marines are disorganized, surprise attacked, and they don't even have a ton of guns to shoot with like they're supposed to.
These liberals up here in the DC are trying to take away our liberties, and this is evidence of the corruption and the conspiracy against our God-given rights.
Well, I can't say no, because that's exactly what happened. and roughly half the Marines are killed. Luckily, Ripley, pulls some real hero maneuver, helping the rest of them escape. Now, Nico, you were so good, we're going to go back to you now. What happens?
Well, everyone decides this time to get the fuck out of there, and they decide to retreat back to their spaceship in orbit around the planet and just nuke it, because it's the only way to be sure. And I'm not going to say the rest of the paragraph like that. Unfortunately, their transport ship is attacked by aliens, and they have no way to get back to their spaceship. They're kind of fucked. Oh, no. Luckily, Bishop can access a terminal and, thankfully, is able to call a backup transport from the ship. But bad news, it's going to take a while. So the group hunkers down and they get ready as the xenomorphs siege that motherfucker. Burke tries some real treasonous shit when he attempts to have a face hugger implant in Newt and Ripley so that they can get some aliens back home because, he's just an evil capitalist, I guess. But
he played Nemesis. And he just, wanted to achieve that objective.
Yeah, real shit. He had the personal quest. He had the personal and the corporate. Anyway, but dude, it doesn't go well for him. He gets foiled by the Marines.
Absolutely. Well, there's only one person we can turn to get rid of all this alien scum. Dan, close us out here.
Well, you can turn to Dan, but things do also take a turn for the worse. As all of the Marines, except for Hicks, are eventually killed by the xenomorphs. Newt is also kidnapped and taken back to the reactor to be a host for a xenomorph. But just then, Bishop shows up with a backup transport ship, but instead of leaving, Ripley goes solo badass and rescues Newt. While rescuing her, she comes across a massive egg-laying xenomorph queen,
Yes, queen,
who chases them out of the reactor, but they escape onto the transport ship and make it back to the main ship in orbit around the planet. Except the queen did too.
Oh no!
And the queen rips Bishop in half, and with Hicks injured, Ripley is on her own. She gets into a mech suit and fights the alien queen, eventually tossing her into an airlock and ejecting her into space. The movie ends with Bishop, Hicks, Newt, and Ripley going back into cryosleep as they head back home. Tricksy motherfuckers.
Dan, you have to say it.
The end.
All right. Well, this movie is thick compared to some of the other ones we've recently watched.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to talk through. Let's not make any delay. Nico, how's this movie look?
It looks really, really, really good for the time, but I can't help but think of how good Alien looked, and to me, this just feels almost a little bit less iconic for some reason. Like, I don't know, the set design was still fantastic in this movie, and I really loved it, but there's something about just... There was something about the very first couple of minutes that kind of took me for a ride when we are seeing one of the colonist families in their little space buggy going out, and they just get out of this motherfucker and put on some, like, I don't know, swim goggles like it's lab day in science class, and they're wearing, like, fucking jean overalls and shit, and I'm like, this just doesn't feel as much like a scary space horror movie anymore now. And I guess it's not, so...
Yeah, maybe it's not, and we'll talk more on that later. But, Dan, did you feel a lack of Geiger in this one, and how do you think it looked?
I was going to say that, actually. Yeah, no H.R. Geiger on this one. I do think that the movie looked pretty good. I liked how the aliens looked. The gore and everything looked pretty cool, the effects and whatnot. But I do agree that it doesn't have quite the same pizzazz, if you will, as the original Alien. And it just doesn't have that magic that the other one did.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's almost like when you break up with your partner, you get with someone else, and in your mind, you're like, low-key, like, I like this person, but my ex was definitely hotter. And you shouldn't do that. Like, you shouldn't compare them in your mind, but you do anyways.
Toxic!
Because it's like, this movie on its own, if I'd never seen Alien, I'd say it looked pretty good, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It looks pretty good. But I know that the H.R. Geiger designs, I mean, hell, even the Alien, the xenomorph from the first one, I think that one looks better than pretty much all the xenomorphs we see in this one, aside from
Yeah.
maybe the queen.
Yeah.
But like, I just love the detail and the actual suit and everything. I think it looks better personally.
And
I
the
agree.
spaceships look a little cartoony because just like I know this is just the CG at the time, but like there was something about these like massive, sprawling mechanical vistas of machinery, and then you have this almost cell-shaded, cartoony-looking little blimp flying into the center of it, and I'm just like, I wish that would have aged a little better.
True. But nothing you can really do about that, I think.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and go to sounds now, and I'll kick this one off. I thought the sounds were fine. The one thing that I didn't necessarily like, the xenomorphs, when they're killed, it's like a video game almost. They all got to let out like a death cry.
Mm-hmm.
Like they shoot them and they go, "Bleh!" and they're gone. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. Also, and I know this is turbo low hanging fruit because this is a child actor with literally, this is the only acting credit she has. But I couldn't get over that sometimes Newt would become British randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah, she fucking did.
I was like, like I'm not going to penalize anything for it because I know she was doing her best. But I was like, wait, what? Where's the tea on crumpets? But that's mostly what I got to say.
Mate, there's
Also,
a fucking xenomorph down the hallway, bruv.
Also, I got to give a shout out to some of the
Donkey!
banter.
Oh, no.
No,
We're
not doing
back!
that again.
No.
We're not doing that again.
We're not on the Nostromo this time. We're on the planet Donkey. Oh, Shrek, I can't do this again. I don't know why anyone would go back to that planet, especially Ripley. You think she, of all people, would know that better. But no, here we are. I don't know how we got here, but we are.
The one-man show. So I do got to give a quick shout out to the Marines because I love some of the banter between them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool one-liners, but maybe we'll talk more on that later. Dan, what's your thoughts on the sound?
Yeah, overall, I liked it. I liked the score. I did think that some of the, kind of to your point, Justin, I think that some of the sounds that the xenomorphs make are a little hokey. Like one of the, I think it was the queen, when her little head comes out as like attacking Ripley. It sounds like a whip or something, like whip crack. And I'm like, what? That wouldn't make that sound though. Like, come on, man. Come on. And there's just times where I'm like, that's not the right. No.
Yeah.
But I thought it was fine. It was
Would you
fine.
say the Foley was out of this world?
Well, Nico, lay it on me. What did you think about the sound?
I have honestly few complaints. Little to none, actually, now that Dan mentioned it. It does feel a little bit more video gamey and actiony, but that's kind of the general vibe of this. And that's not a bad thing. It's really not. I want to emphasize this and make it clear. It's just that Alien is perhaps one of my top 3, if not favorite movie ever. So it's just, again, I can't help but think of, the pinnacle in my mind there. But the script is really, really charismatic. We have a lot of really memorable dialogue, like you said. And I think for the most part, the sort of like little dressings and scenery touches that they add for atmosphere were mostly pretty good.
Agreed. Now, to the dear listeners, we here at DOTD are prestige consumers of horror. So naturally, we watched the special edition of this movie, which adds about 17 minutes of scenes, including Ripley learning that her daughter is dead, kind of some banter and meeting the Marines on the ship, the colony, what it looked like before the alien attack, the bit about the sentry guns where they get the sentry guns and put them in the hallway and everything. And lastly, the Ripley/Hicks, which is either Ricks or Hipley, I haven't decided what I want to call it yet, romance. Do you think that those scenes added anything substantial?
I think the first one definitely adds a lot of weight to her sort of just suffering and level of trauma that she has to go through immediately upon escaping the hellscape that was the events of the previous one, where
That's Ripley learning that her daughter is dead, correct?
Yeah. That's one of the first things that happens there. And just, it's gut-wrenching. It's an absolute blow to see her go through that. And it's just so fucking tragic. But the thing that got me was we have like intergalactic space travel, and they still showed her the obituary of her daughter that was taken on like a fucking potato. That shit looked like real fucking bad.
Yep.
Like real bad.
Well, Dan, what do you think?
I liked most of the added scenes.
Mm.
I like that we learn that her daughter dies because I think that expands and gives more depth to the relationship that she has with Newt.
Absolutely.
Especially at the end when Newt calls her mommy. I actually like rewound that to make sure I heard that right. And I was like, yep.
Oh, you're just like not hearing people call people mommy? Yeah, I hear that too sometimes.
I like the meeting the Marines kind of stuff because that's a common thing in a lot of like the 80s horror / action movies, as well as kind of the banter amongst the big rough and tough guys.
I'm a badass, and this is my band of big fucking badasses.
Pretty much, yeah. That being said, I do wish maybe some of it or maybe other parts were cut down a little, because that does have a runtime of about 2.5 hours, and that's a long movie.
Yeah.
So I would have liked a little bit less. But again, those 2 scenes that I called out, I think were good additions.
So a small note about the Marines real quick. So the one Marine that was like a total chicken shit, he's the one that's played by Bill Paxton. His name is Hudson. So basically his hair, I was reading this, indicates his mood. At the start of the movie when he's all like, I'm an invincible badass, his hair is spiked. When he is scared of what's happening, it goes down flat and it's like really sweaty and pressed down flat. And then when he regains some of his confidence, it's like up a little bit. And then at the very end, when he's like faced his fear and he's fighting the aliens and he's like, fuck you and fuck you and fuck you, his hair spiked again when he's going out. So it was an interesting little thing they did with him there to have his hair reflect like how he was feeling at the time. I'm going to sprinkle some of these facts around. You'll never know. And this movie, we got to talk about the elephant, or should I say the xenomorph, in the room. This movie is tonally very, 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 very different from Alien. Not necessarily a full genre swap, but you're not, you don't have strawberry ice cream anymore. Now you have that like Neapolitan shit where everyone takes your favorite parts and you're left with vanilla. So my question is this. How'd you feel about the swap? I mean, we changed directors. Geiger's not here anymore. So what's your real take on it?
I kind of liked it. I don't know. And I mean, it would have only been the second one to have done this, but I don't know how many movies you can go with it being like the same kind of like prey type of like hunting or like mysterious, I don't know who the killer is type thing. I don't know how many times you can do that before it would get kind of old. And again, it kind of plays into the whole like 80s macho man, Marine action kind of stuff, which I thought was kind of enjoyable, actually. I didn't mind the tonality shift.
And Dan, to your point, it's interesting because when you think of 80s action mixed with horror, one such movie is Terminator. The first one, especially, is definitely horror. And apparently James Cameron was, he got picked up for this movie based on the strength of the script of Terminator. I think it was Terminator and one of the Rambo movies. They liked that and they said this would be perfect.
And so he made Rambo in space.
Well, that's Vasquez. And more on her later. But Nico, what did you think about the shift? I know you are like the biggest Alien fanboy on the planet.
Yeah.
You love the movie. How'd you feel about them just like, look what they did to my boy?
There was a little bit of the look what they did to my boy, but I love Ripley as a character so much. She's such a fucking badass. So honestly, any excuse to spend a little bit of time with her, not counting the third movie, which doesn't exist, is a good time.
I'll say that me personally, I did not like the shift. Now, I do think that the movie is a decent movie, don't get me wrong, but I kind of feel like the things that I loved about Alien weren't in this movie. Aside from Ripley, who I like Ripley and I like her scenes. And to be honest with you, kind of like the first, I want to say maybe 40-ish minutes, maybe up even the first hour of this movie is still like pretty Alien. Like It has a lot of the same vibes, especially when there's nothing going on. When there's no aliens and they're just like, there's this creepiness factor. Like you can't fight the feeling that something is going on, right? That's awesome. And then even the first part where the Marines get ambushed by the aliens, yo, that was a cool scene. Where like the alien came in off the wall and I was like, oh, look, there he is. But afterwards, I don't know, maybe I play too many video games, but it's super video gamey. How all the aliens move like in a pack. And I mean, let's just get right to it. There's something called the inverse theory of ninjutsu. And I did not come up with this. This is a trope that's on TV Tropes, which I spend way too much time on that website. And here's what it basically says. If you have one ninja, right? Or one bad guy or whatever, whether it's a TV show, an anime, whatever it might be, one of them is really powerful, right? But when you have a bunch of them, all of a sudden now they're super easy to kill. And I feel like that's the case with this movie. Like the xenomorphs themselves in the first movie, I mean, they were going after this thing with like flamethrowers. It wouldn't die. Like, they definitely tried to kill it a couple different times. It was super resilient. But even past that, it didn't just mindlessly run at people. Right. Like, yes, there's the stealth aspect to them, which they still kind of sort of kept because they moved through vents and stuff. But there was no sense of subtlety that was there in the first one. Like in the first one, this thing was like a true predator. It would hide in the darkness.
No, that's a different series.
Yeah, I know, right? Or, well, it's different series, same universe though. And it would, you know, do all that. And in this one, they were kind of sort of reduced to basically zombies almost. Just like running at their prey head on first. I mean, they were
way more menacing than zombies, I think, personally. Like, I would be far more scared of xenomorphs than a pack of zombies. I would be more scared of, like, xenomorphs plural, just 2 or 1 than zombies.
I don't know, man. I feel like the Train to Busan zombies were pretty terrifying.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. Those will fuck you up. But they don't got acid blood.
Well,
Dan, I want to ask you, what happened to the acid blood in this movie?
I thought that was quite inconsistent in this movie. Because they have acid blood and spit too, I think, right?
Yes.
Or, yeah. So, like, near the beginning...
And at least one other thing.
Hey.
Wow. Near the beginning,
Tears.
when they first run into the aliens, it's a thing. And then at the end, it's a thing. But there's this whole middle where it doesn't matter. And they're just gunning down aliens left and right. And I'm just like, yo, this whole spaceship would just be destroyed. And the amount of like exploded aliens everywhere, like all that acid blood would just destroy the entire ship. Like you have no chance.
And also like what happened to the, hey, if you shoot here, you will die in a nuclear explosion. Well, just kidding, dog, you're fine.
Yep, that. And when it does explode near the end, you have 1 minute to get 30 kilometers away.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure. The explosion's the size of Nebraska or some shit, I think they said at one point.
Good fucking luck, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen, boss.
You're right, Dan, about the acid being inconsistent, because when they first get to the base, there is like what is presumed to be one xenomorph's worth of acid, and it melts down through like stories and stories off the place. But then now, like, if you get hit with the acid, like, you might get a little fucked up.
Just bandage up, you'll be fine.
Yeah, just bandage up, you'll be all right. And I was like, nah, man, like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, the dude with the shotgun, like, the acid melted his shotgun, but, like, not him. I was confused at that part, but I was like, I think they didn't necessarily want them to die too much. And I don't know. I mean, like, just from my perspective, I also didn't necessarily like the fact that the Marines died so fast. What do you guys think about that?
I was fine with it. I didn't feel any kind of way about it.
I knew that with such a large cast, we were going to have to see some deaths eventually, and they were the logical ones to go to serve the story. So, I mean, I kind of expected it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't know. I kind of wanted... I think too many of them died in that first scene for me. I would have enjoyed it if they were more spread out, the deaths. I like to see that.
I see that. I mean, I feel like, not to compare too much to the original, but I think the original
It's
one
hard,
is a lot
man.
more. Yeah. I think the original one is a lot more intimate.
Yes.
So,
Significantly.
yeah, and that especially goes for the kills. When somebody dies, like, I don't want to say it's long and drawn out necessarily, but like you feel it, like it matters more. And in this one, because like Nico said, I think we have a larger cast and it's a more action-y movie and everything. Like right off when they encounter the aliens, 2 or 3 of them die, and it's almost like nothing, you know. It's not nearly as intimate as the first.
It kind of turns into a game of Contra.
Yo,
A little bit, yeah. Especially with the turrets.
Yeah.
Contra 3, the Alien Wars. Never forget.
Shoutouts.
But I will say this too. Like, they also display like an interesting behavior because they kidnap people and take them to be, you know, like hosts. And I don't know. I feel like that's interesting. And I guess maybe you can say the queen was like controlling them, making them do it because she wanted like more bodies so she could put more eggs into them or whatever. Face huggers, I should say. So I just thought that was interesting because, I don't know, not to compare this to the first because I would surely hate to do that. But I think they took a level of dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of levels of dumb, we're going to try to put together all our brain cells to come up with some themes for this movie.
All 2 of them.
Now, there's one, I know, I'm lacking. There's one that I'm going to bring up to you and ask you about. But so if you were going to say motherhood, leave it alone. But aside from that, what other themes do you see here?
I think I see trust, maybe.
Oh, trust.
Or because like Ripley doesn't, at the beginning, she doesn't trust Bishop, who's the synthetic being,
Right.
because of what happens in the first one. But throughout the movie, he proves himself a couple times. And at the end, what did she say? Like, you did good or some shit like that, because
And then he gets fucking
Yes.
destructo-disced.
yeah. Yeah. So like at the end, you know, she kind of becomes, she trusts him more in that little character arc, I guess, there.
Right.
I did really like that. What was the name of the corporate motherfucker who was with them? I can't remember
Burke.
his name. Yeah, Burke. I thought he was going to be a synth. I thought he was going to be a synth like from the jump, but it turns out he's just a rat fuck. So.
Hey, they're not synths.
Oh,
They're
sorry, they're
artificial
artificial
people.
peoples. Yes, excuse me.
Sorry. For those of you who don't know, and you should, tisk tisk if you don't, Bishop takes umbrage when they referred to him as a synth, saying he prefers to be called an artificial person. But moving past that, I also think that I see camaraderie because Vasquez is kind of the badass, and there's like a little hint that maybe one of the Marines, Vasquez, maybe it's more than just a friendship between her and that guy, but he dies pretty quick. And then, you know, Vasquez ends up getting isolated at one point, and the super incompetent lieutenant, Gorman, I will say, to his credit, he suicides basically to try and help save Vasquez.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, but I think he kind of was redeemed a little bit in that, you know,
I
he
wouldn't
made
say
the
he
sacrifice.
suicides to save her. I mean,
Yeah, because she dies right next
I mean,
to him.
he blows both of them up.
Okay. They take a heroic
There
stand
we
to make
go.
sure the xenomorphs don't, you know, get any further, even though they do. But like, at the end of it all, they just were going down fighting, man. What else can you say? So I like that. I like the essence of camaraderie. And Nico, since you were going to say it, I'm just going to pose the question to you. The topic of motherhood has been discussed a lot about this movie, perhaps the most prevalent theme. We can see, obviously, that Ripley, otherwise known as Riley, is struggling with the fact that she lost her daughter and she finds a new one in Newt. But we
Yo,
also
the first
see
3
motherhood.
letters of her name are new.
It's a new name. And
Wow.
Yeah.
First
We
3 letters
also-
of Ripley are R.I.P.,
Rip.
which he does not do.
so basically,
First 3 letters of Burke are Burr. Burr. Like fucking sharp my shawty. Burr.
you know, okay, I'm gonna just say this right now.
I have a master's degree.
Itji Ma the Yiruma, A River Runs Through It, Flows Through It remix or whatever that's called with the piano, the real somber piano one.
Real OGs know.
If they don't play that at my funeral, I'm not going. But basically,
I don't think you have much choice there.
That would, man.
Common internet phrases. But no, so anyhow, we also see motherhood. Thanks for distracting me, you dick. From the alien queen, because she also wants to protect her clutch, her brood. So talk about it a little bit, Nico. And I will present you with a question.
Okay, all right. Hit me with the prompts, teach.
So this movie has largely been called an examination of motherhood, specifically between Ripley and the alien queen. But do you agree with that take on it? And if so, do you think there's maybe a difference in the type of mother Ripley is versus the alien queen, or are they the same?
I think it... I'm gonna be real with you, Chief. When I was watching this, like, obviously motherhood is one of the biggest themes, but I was more taking the whole movie as much like the first, more sort of a riff on capitalism bad.
Of course.
Because, like, the entire reason they're there is for monetary gains for the purpose of Wayland Yutani so they can do some international fucking arms race shit with the eggs from the brood mother, which, how did they think that was ever a good idea? Just for a second. But anyway, like, it's... I took greed to be one of the more prevalent themes, and the characters showing these motherhood tendencies or being aligning with that theme almost as a secondary thing, but I might be like way the fuck off base.
No, it's actually kind of funny because I also really dug into the corporate theme myself. So how about this? I will redirect a question to the both of you. This movie's also been noted as a quote-unquote feminist action movie given the actions of Ripley, not only Ripley, but also Vasquez, because generally speaking, the women Marines are treated pretty much the same as the men. There's only ever one kind of like potentially, kind of like gendered comment made, but it's for laughs and everybody laughs about it, including Vasquez. When one of the Marines asks Vasquez if she's ever been mistaken for a man, she replies, "No, have you?" And everyone kind of laughs about it at the end of the day. So that's really the only time we see it. And so they've said that. However, they've also said that it is at the end of it is almost kind of a reinforcement of the nuclear family, because you end with Ripley, the man of the house, Hicks, the daughter, Newt, and I don't know how this is a stretch or not, but the family dog, Bishop.
Wait, what? What?
Bishop playing the loyal role of the family dog. So my question is, do you see...
Press X to doubt my guy.
I'm just quoting what I've read online, but do you see this as a feminist action flick?
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think it 100% is, and again, this is why I just love the character that Sigourney Weaver plays on these beautiful movies so much, and it's just, why there's such a fond place in my heart for this franchise. But, like, you know what? I don't have any bad things to add there. No, I think it's clean cut. Yeah, good all around.
All right, Dan, clean cut for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ripley has always been sort of a feminist powerhouse icon from the first movie as well. But, I mean, yeah, mom, daughter at the end, cool, but I don't see that as being the antithesis of a feminist character or a strong female lead.
I feel like this movie is less, I'm going to make a movie about motherhood, and more, this is a mother who is, once again, cleaning up after all the shit that everyone else makes around her.
That is true. That is true. Intelligent discussion, guys. We haven't had one of those in a while, huh?
No, I don't think we have.
So real quick, I want to touch on the what would you do right fast. And this is just a pretty easy one, I guess. If you were going to be in the, that colonial marine unit that was going to the planet, what would your specialty be? Would you be like the heavy gunner, like Vasquez? Would you be more the tech guy? Would you be like the synth droid, biology? Like, what would be your area of expertise?
I feel like I'd be the tracker.
The tracker?
With the little tracking device and like...
Yeah.
I'd be the
that was
ranger,
pretty important.
the ranger of the group. He
Oh,
was
yeah.
Aragorn, you know?
There you go. There you go. There you go. A red sun rises. Nico.
Justin, what do your brown eyes see?
What?
I have brown eyes and I'm brown and I have
Yep.
eyes. So who knows what's real? But Nico, what would your role be? What would your role be? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm that classic rock and roll song, Brown Eyed Girl. What is this?
No, you
no,
know,
what's your role in the unit?
I'm the artificial person. I'm nobody. I'm dead. I'm cut in half. That's who I am.
you're still in cryo sleep.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm still in I just skipped this entire side quest.
Yeah, you didn't see it, but like off to the side, Nico was asleep. And when everyone woke up, his pod like just didn't. And so
At the
what
end of the
happens is
movie, in my little hypersleep pod, I was popping like a popcorn kernel.
He's not even in cryo sleep. He's just in one of
Asleep.
Nico Odin's sleeps.
No, I like it at the very end of the movie after like Ripley and all of them go to sleep. Nico's cryopod wakes up. He's like, all right, I'm ready to go off to, whoa, what happened here? And then just like how the movie ends. So I feel like for me personally, I feel like I would have to be kind of like the Vasquez type character. Or like the dude with like the shotgun. Cause I feel like for me, like I'm not a man of
You would be a pwn. You'd be a
Maybe.
fucking drill sergeant, bro.
maybe. Also, there's apparently I agree with you actually. I probably would.
Yeah.
Because he's not like so high up that he's like removed from the combat, but he, you know, directs his people and everything else like that. And I like that about him.
He's also very
I was sad when he
charismatic
died.
and not an asshole, which I liked.
Mhm.
You know what's funny? There's actually extended material that says his in character, he was not allowed to curse at the Marines. In character, like corporate doctrine says he couldn't curse. He never did. That's why he always told them like, oh, you know, like get over here, or like shut that. We got to talk about whatever. And he didn't
Yeah.
like curse at them.
Wow.
So there's a reason for that in universe too.
Interesting.
So pretty good, pretty good. But now, and you know it was coming, critical review. What'd this movie have on Rotten Tomatoes? Our aggregator of choice. What's it got?
It's gotta be high. It's fucking gotta be.
It's gotta be.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna do it again. 41, 37, 78.
Okay, Dan?
I'm going to say, I was going to go with 76.
Well, Nico wins, but you should both be ashamed. This movie has a 98%.
God damn.
Wow. Okay.
That's why I made the face when I loaded up the page pre-podcast. 98% from the critics, audience right behind them with the 94. So this one is right up there. And I'm going to say that, in fact, on Rotten Tomatoes, the original Alien also has a 98% critic and 94% audience. So this is exactly as well liked, supposedly. That being said, I want to hear your thoughts that might be from a different planet. What would you give this movie?
I would do an 86.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great movie. A lot more action than the first one, of course, as we have discussed. I thought it was a lot of fun. The runtime was long, and I know, again, we watched the special edition, but even then, 2 hours and I think 17 was the original or
Yes.
something, which is still kind of long. But I didn't hate the runtime. I would have liked it to be shorter, but it wasn't the worst thing ever, you know? So I thought it was pretty good. 86.
I'm going to go ahead and say that for me, I'm right there with you, Dan, at an 85. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a good flick. That runtime was IMO excessive. We did watch the special edition,
Oh,
but even then, now granted, little backstory here, audience. Your boy Just, the time management was not there. And thanks to some shenanigans by Dan, I'm over here at fucking like 2:30 in the morning. Like,
What was my shenanigans?
I'm over here like, Dan, the movie won't end. So, yeah. But that being said,
Justin texted me in like literally right as I was becoming unconscious, and he was like, "Hey, yo, Nico, you watched the movie?" And I texted back like, "Nope," but like interesting. I don't know. Fucking figure it out, Justin. And he did, and we're here, and it's okay. Are we going to do this again? Almost assuredly. Do we plan on it ever being like this? No.
well, Yes. And, you know, it's funny because I like what the special edition added, but I don't know what could be cut, but I feel like something could be cut because I don't know what the movie needed to be as long as it had been. Also, I am really not a fan of the tonal shift. I feel like there is a bit of the heart of the first Alien that didn't make it to this one.
Mm-hmm.
And James Cameron, you know, he has his own vision. And especially at this point in time, like, think of what he's dropping. You know what I mean? Like Terminator. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So he was never going to do what Ridley Scott did and H.R. Geiger. So, yeah, 85 for me.
I'm going to go continue this little trend and give it an 84. It is, once again, I don't know if we've said this at all during this recording, but it's hard to not compare this to the first one, which is just on such a zenith in film, let alone horror, for me personally. And I know that, remember, y'all two liking it as well. And, you know, this is just an entirely different beast. It's still a really good time. I was really almost enwrapped the entire time I was watching it, with a little bit of an exception towards the beginning part when it's more just bureaucratic nonsense. But once it gets going, like, it really keeps your attention, and the runtime is a bit excessive, but we watched the extended edition.
Oh, yeah?
So, you know, even if we took out those scenes, it's, you know, some are like, what was it, 2 hours and 17 minutes, I think, or something like that?
I think so.
Yeah,
around there?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, something like that. So, yeah, I recommend it.
A quick point about the bureaucratic thing Nico said. I'll have you know, Nico was one of the few people that, like, bro, you could put anything on the TV and, like, if you're with Nico, you'll get hype.
Oh,
We were
thank
watching
you.
Shin Godzilla, and they were going from, like, meeting into meeting, and me and Nico are just, like, lit as shit, and it's like, oh, the subcommittee, what's the subcommittee gonna say? And then it was just like, after the subcommittee, they were like, okay, all members who are not a member of the parliamentary adjunct party need to go. And like 2 people got up and left, and 1 person walked in. Like, oh, they went from a meeting into another meeting, though. And
The
it was like,
Godzilla's
okay.
right there. You can see
And
him out the
meanwhile,
window.
Godzilla's like blowing up the whole city. And they're like, hang on. These funds were clearly misappropriated. And I was like, yo. So I know if we'd all been in the same location, the
Oh, yeah,
bureaucratic
that
scenes
would
might
have
have
been
different.
shenanigans for sure.
But we all recommended the movie. Is this getting a golden seal?
No.
No from me.
I don't think I would have either. It's sort of on the cusp for me. Not quite there.
Yeah.
Well done. I am ready with my shield in hand. So if you've got something you'd like to add to the conversation, hit us up. We're on X and Instagram at DOTD Horror.
not
We're also
X.
on Facebook, which is, of course, Don't Open That Door. And you can catch everything we've done on our website, which is dotdhorror.com. But till then, keep yourself safe. Look out for one another. Try not to visit any alien planets. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye. Bro, I swear I could probably do like a slide maneuver though. Like I could probably like use, like, you ever see like when they do the bowling pins? Like I could like use my head for like some kind of like tactical assault. More on that later.